everybody, and welcome to the March 14th Trips and Traps. Andy Serling, joined by Eric Donovan.
And we'll bring you 5 races this week. A few races from Gotham Saturday, actually. We were going to do the show on Friday, the day we canceled last week, so we shortened it down to a 3-day week. But we do have 2 races from that week as well. But let's get started with March 2nd, Gotham Day. We'll start off with race number 8, a New York bred maiden special weight for 3-year-olds going 6.
Wanted to show this race because I received a number of people who wanted to talk about the 5 Fiona's Hero, who was a first-time starter for Dominic Scatino, who probably was ready to win this race. And I think a horse that may have been working with a Dominic Scatino firster that had won either earlier in the card or earlier in the week. And Fiona's Hero is a horse that cost herself any chance she had, or himself, at the break.
Yeah, breaking this slow in a 6-furlong race on the inner track, first-time starter, you're just up against it. You just, you're spotting experience and lengths, going down the backstretch here, and it just usually doesn't work out.
Yeah, and you can see Fiona's Hero has already expended energy just to get to this position, and it also, I think this race exemplifies to an extreme almost how important the break is. And races are pretty much won and lost the break all the time, especially when you have first-time starters. If you don't get out cleanly, you don't have to break. It only breaks probably a length slow, but in a big field, by the time the horse gets his legs under him, there's so much separation. He's 10, 12 lengths behind. What chance does he possibly have?
And there he is moving up into a 6th place right now around the turn as they straighten out for home. And I think a lot of people will like this, steady, sustained run that Fiona's Hero makes. I wasn't blown away by his race in hindsight. Yeah, it was a good race, and he'll probably be much shorter second time out than he was here at 7-1. But it was an honest effort, and what do you do with him next time out? Depends on, I think, what kind of field he's in and what kind of price he is.
Yeah, I think you sort of hit it on the head. It's kind of a wishy-washy opinion. I mean, obviously, yeah, this horse is not going to be a big price next time, and had some trouble and ran a race that may have been good enough to win this race. The question is, how good was this race overall? The horse who finished second was a 60-1 shot. That horse is entered this coming Saturday. We'll see how he does. The other thing is, as you had pointed out before we went on the air, Dom Scatino has him ready to go first time out. So the question is, can you reasonably expect Fiona's Hero to be as ready to run a big race the second time?
That's an important question, and questions you'll have to answer at under 4-1, I'm guessing.
Yeah, that's the thing, and I'm sure as the morning line maker, this horse will be a short price and be on everybody's list. I tend to want, and I know you kind of agree, shy away from these horses. Obviously, he could find a field. He's just better than, I guess it depends, but he may be a bit of a trap.
All right, let's get on to the stakes action from Saturday. This was actually the second stakes race on the card. It's the Tom Fool for sprinters going 6.
Yeah, we're going to talk about a couple of speeds, and not so much early it really matters. There's Common at the top and on the 9 on the outside, Head, Heart, Hook. But the other horses are Saturday's Hero, loses a photo, and Consortium, who I think finished 4th in here, and had some trouble in the stretch. And frankly, and this is not a knock on Common at the top, who had run a week before and ran very well, and he was very game. Another race that was very much won early. The 3 Saturday's Charm broke a little slow, but this was a very moderate pace for this kind of field.
It was a moderate pace, and I thought a great ride by Joel Rosario. I mean, he got away with keeping keeping a lot of horses floated out going into the turn here. He's in about the 3 or 4 path, I believe, right now. So he, keeps these horses wide going into the turn there. You'll see Consortium start to move up in between horses in the blue. He's a little bit on hold right now in the middle of the pack there, running into a little bit of traffic, and Saturday's Charm making that big move on the outside.
Yeah, I thought that Eddie Castro gave a very good ride to Consortium, putting him in good position. But ultimately, maybe not the best choice going inside the stretch, but I don't know that he really had a choice. I think he just had to deal with the hand he was dealt. And this was almost like an old Angel Cordero ride by Joel Rosario, because here they are in the front, the 2 and Joel, and Consortium's behind him. Saturday's Charm is wheeled out to the outside here. But I want you to watch Consortium, because he wants to go for that hole. That horse is coming over, but what else is going on is Joel is coming out there and forcing a head on her hoof. This was like the days of Angel Cordero. Joel rode about half the field.
Yeah, he did ride about half the field. You're absolutely right about that. Consortium has forced to come up the inside. He runs well in here. Looks like maybe he might have been better served being outside. You got to think that maybe he could have put in a better run there. A good run from Saturday's Charm, but Common at the top very game to deny him.
Common at the top was terrific, and we're going to show you so you can see. Now, here's Common at the top, obviously Head, Heart, Hook in his flank, but here's Consortium. He doesn't have a hole to get through, and as you're going to see Joel riding half the field as he drifts out here, and he cuts it pretty close, to be honest. He's really hurting, but Consortium is forced to go to the inside. I think that mitigated his rally. Now, maybe ultimately he just wasn't good enough, but he seems to be a horse moving in the right direction. To be perfectly honest, though, Saturday's Charm ran the best race, Eric. He broke a little slow. He was widest. He didn't change leads in the stretch. That was a tough beat if you had him, as he lost the head bob. As game as Common Top was, the best horse in the year was Saturday's Charm, who is improving a lot for Toby Sheets.
They are improving, and I wonder, both him and Consortium, I think, are improving quite a bit, and I wonder, if they continue to take another step. I still think they're maybe a notch below the top sprinters in the country, but there is still room for upside. Where if they take another step, they could be right there.
I agree, and the sprint division is very open at this point. I mean, don't forget the Lumber Guy has struggled. Trinnyberg's going to Dubai, and he hasn't run yet this year. Delaunay's been incredibly impressive down in New Orleans, but he's got to take his show on the road. So this division is wide open. But you're right; these horses have to take another step forward to be considered the upper echelon.
Now we'll take a look at the Gotham for 3-year-olds. Obviously, Vijak continued to remain undefeated in this race, but we'll take a look at the head-on of the start and a couple of horses that are affected early on here. I thought Transparent El Nawi, the 1 on the 8, took the worst of it here, and I think the reason why was because overanalyzed from the outside post. With Johnny Velasquez, he's looking to come over and save some ground going into the turn, and the field kind of bunches up.
It's a very good point, Eric. I think a lot of people thought the second-place finisher was the one coming over, but really it was overanalyzed. And here is El Nawi, and here is Consortium in those Darley colors. And Consortium, of course, who sort of the naked eye had that easy stalking trip, but he is really badly compromised early and taken out of position.
Yeah, he was taken out of position early, and you see down to the inside, Transparent gets a little bit rank. He's throwing his head around. He's, head's turned sideways a little bit there. So these two horses, stepping up and facing tough stakes horses off of maiden wins, really got some seasoning here.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that, Transparent, we're not saying he's a Triple Crown contender, but these are all horses, it's a long year, and there's a lot of races for them, and Transparent may have had a legitimate excuse. I mean, here he is, and you can see what a good, comfortable position he's in. Al Nawi's there on the blue. He's in those Shadwell silks. But really, he's compromised early, and it takes him out. Imagine if he had just sort of cruised on towards the front. And to be honest with you, I would say a little bit was up to Erod Ortiz. Maybe if he was a little more aggressive early and they had gone a little faster, he wouldn't have gotten this problem. And I think some of the reason that these shenanigans took place, and you see him getting bounced around, a nice angle there, El Nawi's out here, I think one of the reasons it happened is that the riders are so passive here, and they're not looking to go forward, as Richie likes to say, get in your position going forward, that they became victims when it didn't have to happen if people were riding a little more out of the gate.
Yeah, it's a tough call for some of these riders, especially on horses like this who are stepping up in a stakes company for the first time. Do you really want to be on the engine the whole way, going in the Gotham like this?
I don't know if you're on the engine. I hear what you're saying, Eric, and it's very easy for us to be armchair quarterbacks. No argument with that. But what I'm saying is, it just feels like there's a general feeling coming out of the gate, I'm going to be on aggressive. If you come out, I'm not saying you're an all-out drive and you're seizing the bull by the horns, so to speak, but come out with a little bit of aggression just to make a moving forward. I think if a couple riders did it, more people might do it, and you just have a little bit more separation as we go in the turn, and you wouldn't have all this clogging coming up, because we're seeing an awful lot of clogging because the paces are slow.
Yeah, we are, and we're moving around the turn here. You see a Transparent outside of West Hills Giant at this point here. El Nawi's, back there in between horses, and Vijak's going to start to make a wide move here beneath Jockey Joao Rosario.
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that El Nawi runs well. He's wide chasing. He's in a drive. Overanalyzes in a drive from Johnny. And we're going to pick up Vijak. He is right behind El Nawi. We come in the stretch. Vijak's got like that maroon sort of hat, mauvish almost. Transparent's up front. He's giving way. El Nawi keeps running. But I do feel like, Vijak ran clearly the best race. He was clearly the best horse. The fact that Overanalyze and El Nawi were both sort of seemingly coming on again towards the end was more of an indication of the race falling apart.
Yeah, I could agree with you there. I think, West Hills Giant ran a game race, considering, what he had done before stepping up into a spot like this. He was a big price. He's getting a little bit tired there. Transparent's getting a little bit tired from being up on the pace as well. But you're right, El Nawi and Overanalyze coming back on at the end. Kind of an optical illusion, I think.
What do you think of this race? You haven't really had much of a chance to give your opinion. I've had plenty of chance.
I mean, I think Vijak's pretty good. I don't know how much better he's going to get. I think El Nawi and Transparent are horses that, could be on the cusp of becoming, minor stakes horses for 3-year-olds. I don't know that they're ready to, take the vault into Kentucky Derby type main contenders, but I think they're a couple of horses that could have nice years in front of them.
Top of your head, we get Verrazano, obviously, who a lot of people legitimately think is maybe the Kentucky Derby favorite at this point. Normandy Invasion and Vijak in the Wood. Odds.
I don't know, 3 to 5 or 4 to 5 on Verrazano, probably something like that. Vijak, probably second choice, and 3 to 1, 4 to 1 range. The Normandy Invasion, maybe 6 to 1 or something like that, 8 to 1. Depends on the size of the field.
No, it'll be interesting to see. El Nawi could be in there as well. Looking forward to that race. And I tend to somewhat agree with you. I would think Normandy Invasion will take more money. let's move ahead.
All right, let's move ahead to a couple races from this past Saturday. We'll take a look at the 7th now. New York bred Maiden special weight for 3 and up, going 6.
We're going to talk about a couple of horses. One was a horse that was well meant this day, and that's the number 4 horse, Private Irving A. The other one is the 5 in those green silks outside, MP Joe, who ran second. MP Joe should have been unsaddled. Frankly, Peter Chin, a sort of under-the-radar trainer, should have won 2 races Saturday, and because of use of riders, he was cost. You see MP Joe already steadying. Now, Private Irving A didn't have a trip. In fact, I thought Rajiv, I think you agree, gave him a very good ride. But he was a horse that was well meant, and they just spotted him a little too aggressively.
Yeah, you know, with Private Irving A, I'm wondering if this was the time to have him because he came off of, you know, a terrible form type of race.
Yeah, here he is behind. And don't worry about him. He has a good trip. But note the trip. The 5's already stayed MP Joe, but it just gets to be a nightmare after this.
Yeah, I mean, it's a ridiculous nightmare for MP Joe, who was ready to win, you know, in this spot here. And for a guy like Peter Chin, who, you know, really isn't live too many spots throughout the year, you got to wonder, you know, when you finally get live, you know, with the horse, you might want to go for one of the top riders in the room.
Well, the other thing is, it's not as though his form was that awful. He was 12-1 with a rider who very rarely rides and doesn't have much success. And this is the Private Irving A. MP Joe is already back to last, having encountered nothing but trouble. It's second to last. It's amazing that he actually finishes second in this race. It's utterly amazing. He should have been unsaddled in here. And I said that liking the winner. I mean, I was lucky that he won because MP Joe should have won. I'd have liked MP Joe a lot more if he had a different rider on him. I don't know where you go with him, but he has to have a different rider next time, MP Joe, or you couldn't bet him because you'll see the same shenanigans again. Private Irving A was a horse, if people aren't familiar with him, he's worth getting the PPs because he's a horse that had debuted, I think, in a $15,000 maiden claiming race at Parks back in December. And I switched to Jen Antonucci. He's a bit of a wise guy. And immediately you saw this horse, you knew there's something, either this is a ridiculous horse, 100-1, it's no chance. There's something going on. The horse had a couple of fast works. Well, they got a little ambitious, I think, because the works were pretty good. They could have been in a maiden claiming race for New York breds, and they would have beat a field and won pretty easily.
They would have. I'm a little bit leery of both these horses going forward. I think MP Joe's trouble's exposed, especially with the rider, and I think this was the time. You know, this was a spot for Private Irving A. First off the trainer change, off the bad race at Parks, Lasix blinkers for Rajiv, good workouts, as you said. So I'm a little bit leery of these two horses going forward.
I agree. I think they're both trash. MP Joe's had a lot of chances. He should have won this race. This was his day. Private Irving A is now fully exposed. Let's say they run him in the right spot next time, and he's just going to be a 2-to-1 shot. He's probably going to win, but you know what? You had your chance, the day to get the money with him, and that's the thing. Is if you want to win, that's why when people put horses over, I have such respect for them because they got it done. They found the right spot and the right situation when they get a horse. This horse was in just too tough.
He was indeed. One more race to bring you, and the stakes race from this past Saturday, the Fred Capicella. Strong running of the Cappy, going 6 furlongs for 3-year-olds.
Yeah, an interesting race, and clearly the second horse, a long shot, loses his chance to break. But we want to talk about that going forward. The other horse we want to talk about is Country Hideaway, because Country Hideaway got an impatient ride, and I think Weekend Hideaway. I keep saying Country Hideaway, the Phipps horse. Weekend Hideaway, I think he collapsed the race, and in some ways may have made Tenango, who did run well for David Jacobson's performance, look a little better than it was.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point. I think you're right on here because you take a look at where Weekend Hideaway is right now in the red, and Weekend Hideaway is going to start to make a move up to the front end, which is going to, quicken the pace a little bit here, and as you say, collapse the race a little bit.
The other thing is, and we had talked about this in the race report yesterday with Richie, by making that move outside of other horses, he carries them into the race. He carries the pink horse, the 7 horse in the race, who forces Claw back in the race, and everybody is forced to move earlier than they wanted, except for the eventual winner, who's riding along on the rail. Tenango is now, at this point, sitting back patiently. Now, listen, maybe Tenango breaks clearly, maybe he gets a perfect trip and he wins, but then we would have said, well, he just had a perfect trip. So do you really want him next time when he's a much, much shorter price?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is a dynamics type of race. Both these horses kind of saving ground in behind the patient here, and they'll run 1-2. So, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with where the horses were going around the turn and what the move that Weekend Hideaway made there. Clawback, a little disappointed with this effort. I know he was up on the pace, but I thought he should have run a little better than this.
I totally agree. His hand was forced a little earlier, but he collapsed readily. And listen, Malaya is a second-time star, perfect trip or not. This horse moved forward. He's a good horse. And Clawback's a good horse. He's just going to have to rebound from this. Now, listen, maybe I'm overrating Country Hideaway, and ultimately he's just a very
Weekend
good
Hideaway.
Weekend Hideaway. I'll just never get it right. Maybe he's just a very good New York bred. And I still wish he had gotten a more comfortable trip in here. And it'd be interesting to have a sort of alternate universe. How would this race have been run if he hadn't made that early move and they had continued at a fair pace, but not all speeded up and used themselves up so much in the turn? All food for thought, and we can use as much food for thought as possible and as much help from you as we can get. Trips and Traps at MyRank.com.
Thanks for watching.